Welcome to the product demonstration for Orchid Systems Notes. With Orchid System Notes, it gives you the ability to store a note against any field on any screen of Sage 300, as well as any other third-party product that is fully written in the SDK. With Notes, your users have access to key information that they may need on a day-to-day basis. Notes is extremely easy for you to use, which you will see when we show you the configuration. And lastly, there is an integration with Orchids Extender. With Orchid Extender, you can write a script to populate a note. For example, if a credit limit changes, pop a note in and show who changed it, the date and the time that that change was made. Or you could write a script to go out to a website to look at a map or to pull additional information into the note. Let's go and have a look at the software. With Orchid Notes, for today's example, we're showing you a configuration around the order entry screen. You see the Notes window has popped up on the right-hand side, and it also has the same coloring as the company that these notes have been created for. With Notes, we can pin the window to the Sage 300 screen, so if you have users that are running multiple companies of Sage 300, they can easily identify which notes pertain to the screen that they're currently looking at. Our configuration here is, the first box is configured around my customer number and the ship to. So based on the value within the customer number field and the value within the ship to field, I'm seeing the appropriate note. The second box, we've actually used an Orchid product called Extender to generate that note for us, and this is around the credit limit. So when that credit limit changes, Extender will automatically update the note. The third box we're seeing is a configuration around the customer and the item. So I'm seeing notes that pertain specifically to that item. The bottom box that we see in blue is a configuration around the location, and based on the value within the location field will determine the note that we see. The second from last box, the one that's in white, that is the document management link solution that gives you the ability to store documents against any field in Sage 300. And you can see a product demonstration of document management link on the Orchid website at orchid.systems. A few options you have when you're configuring notes. You can see there's multiple font types, so you can easily type and copy a note into the notes window using different font types. The second thing you'll notice is that each of those notes are in different colors. This is a configuration option that you have with the Notes product, whereby you can color code notes so that users can easily identify which notes pertain to them and which ones they don't need to review. So you're seeing the notes around item number A1-103/0. If we look at that pink note in the middle of the notes window, if I click on the next line item, you'll see that that note disappears because it was specific to item A1-103/0. When we open up the configuration for Information Manager under the Options and the Notes hotkey, this is where you can come to configure the notes. So when I click on any line item, I can open that up and I can view the configuration. So the type here would be note. The first field that we see is the Roto ID. This is a screen identifier. Each screen in Sage 300 has what we call a Roto ID, which gives you the ability to isolate the note to just that one screen, or you can leave that blank, and that would mean that you would like to see that note against any screen in Sage 300 that has the appropriate field that you've identified in this configuration. The first line of configuration we see is around the customer number. And in the case of the item note that we were looking at, the second field label is around the item number. So I'm saying when a certain customer and item combination are appearing, I would like to see the underlying note for that. Each note has what we call a note type, and we'll show you that configuration in just a minute. You can choose to show an alert, and that alert could be the tray icon flashing, the tray icon changing colors, or in the case of our example today, we've said to show the alert, which means have that window open up and sit on the screen to display the notes associated with any field on that screen. I mentioned earlier you can have note categories where you can identify different colors for different types of notes, and you of course can have as many different categories as you need. And then under the further configuration of notes is where you can define note types, and you can have as many note types as you need, and then you can define roles. And within those roles is where you can determine what users can do with each note type. So for example, if we have a look at the purchases, we can see that for each note type, the members of that group, whether or not they can add a new note, view a note, edit a note, or delete a note. And then under the user roles is where you define each user and which role they fall into, and that determines what notes they will see and whether or not they can add, edit, or delete a note. We'd like to thank you for taking the time today to review Orchid Notes. Please feel free to visit our website at orchid.systems to view other product demonstrations.